Reality television promises closeness, an invitation into homes, relationships, and private moments presented as if nothing is hidden. But behind that illusion of access are lives shaped by secrets the audience never sees. Many reality stars carefully construct versions of themselves that appear open and honest, while the truths behind their personas tell a very different story. Some maintain polished images built on success, stability, or innocence even as their private worlds fall apart. Others quietly balance legal trouble, emotional turmoil, or personal contradictions that never make it into confessionals or edited scenes. These double identities raise an uncomfortable question about the very nature of reality fame. How much of what we're shown is real, and how much is performance designed to survive the spotlight? Before we begin, which reality celebrity do you believe was hiding the biggest secret and why? Comment your guess below. Today we uncover 25 reality figures whose public personas and private truths were never aligned, revealing how different their lives looked when the cameras stopped rolling. 25. Teresa Giudice. Teresa Giudice entered The Real Housewives of New Jersey as a confident, outspoken figure whose dynamic energy quickly made her one of the franchise's most visible faces. On camera, she embodied luxury and family pride, a woman who navigated social tensions with certainty, embraced lavish living, and projected an image of unwavering strength. Her presence combined glamour, emotional honesty, and explosive charisma, creating a version of herself that viewers believed reflected success earned through resilience. Outside the show, Teresa's circumstances were far less controlled. Financial instability, questionable business filings, and strained family dynamics gradually took shape behind the scenes. While episodes highlighted celebrations and expensive choices, her real life involved mounting debts and legal vulnerabilities she struggled to manage. The contrast widened each season, with her public persona continuing to radiate prosperity while her private reality became increasingly threatened by scrutiny from investigators and the pressures of maintaining appearances. When financial crimes were revealed and her sentence was announced, the divide between her televised life and her hidden challenges became impossible to ignore. Audiences were confronted with a narrative that contradicted nearly everything they had been shown. Teresa's downfall demonstrated how reality television can amplify an image, even as the truth beneath it quietly fractures, transforming her into one of the genre's most notable examples of a double life unraveling in full view. 24. Jen Shah. Jen Shah arrived on The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City with a persona built on intensity, humor, and visible displays of wealth. On screen, she appeared as a commanding figure, energetic, outspoken, and eager to showcase the responsibilities of running a growing business empire. Her lifestyle, complete with assistants and designer fashion, created the impression of a leader who thrived under pressure and had earned her status through ambition and skill. The image was polished, dramatic, and convincing. Behind that projection, the foundation of her success was far more fragile. Federal investigations had begun long before cameras rolled, targeting a telemarketing network tied to her operations. The accusations described a system built on deception, exploiting individuals who trusted the false promises they received. While she continued to present confidence and control on television, she privately faced a reality defined by legal danger, internal fear, and the weight of an empire constructed on vulnerable ground. When her arrest unfolded publicly, the version of Jen that fans recognized dissolved almost instantly. Her eventual admission of guilt revealed the full extent of the contrast between who she claimed to be and what she had concealed. The fall from self-proclaimed entrepreneur to convicted figure became one of reality TV's most dramatic collapses, exposing the distance between her on-screen identity and the truth behind it. 23. Josh Duggar. Josh Duggar was introduced on 19 Kids and Counting as a model of conservative values, polite, responsible, and deeply rooted in religious principles. The show framed him as a steady presence within a large, disciplined family, reinforcing themes of tradition and morality. His appearances suggested a man committed to faith, family leadership, and a lifestyle governed by strict personal standards. Viewers accepted him as a product of the values he represented, believing the calm exterior reflected authentic character. The reality outside the show revealed a far more troubling picture. Incidents that predated his television fame had been handled privately, shielded from public attention through internal measures. As time went on, additional behaviors, including infidelity and controversial online activity, exposed patterns that directly contradicted the values he publicly upheld. The persona presented to millions depended on concealment, selective narratives, and deliberate omission of elements that would have shattered the show's central message. When these details finally emerged, the effect on the franchise was immediate and severe. Networks distanced themselves, viewers expressed shock, and the family's image as a symbol of purity collapsed. Josh's case became a defining example of how a carefully curated identity can obscure deeply conflicting behavior, highlighting the risks of building a reality brand on an illusion that cannot withstand exposure. 22. Abby Lee Miller. Abby Lee Miller became known on Dance Moms as a demanding instructor whose strict standards and sharp critiques were presented as the driving force behind her students' success. On screen, she projected total authority, a coach who understood disciplined competition and the sacrifices required to create champions. Her persona blended toughness with expertise, suggesting that every harsh word or confrontation served a larger purpose. Viewers saw a woman fully in command of her studio and her reputation. Off-camera, however, Abby faced difficulties that contrasted sharply with the controlled environment she imposed on her dancers. Financial problems accumulated over time, and her business operations became entangled in a series of tax and bankruptcy issues. The rigid confidence she displayed publicly masked a private struggle to navigate legal challenges and maintain stability. As outside scrutiny intensified, the gap between her authoritative television identity and her increasingly uncertain real life widened. When federal charges surfaced, the impact was immediate. Her conviction undermined the image of discipline and order she had long cultivated, revealing vulnerabilities she had kept hidden from the audience. Fans who admired her intensity were forced to reassess the person behind the persona. Abby's story reflects how the facade of control can mask profound instability and how quickly a public identity built on toughness can fracture under the weight of real-world consequences. 21. Todd Chrisley. Todd Chrisley appeared on Chrisley Knows Best as the polished patriarch of a picturesque Southern family, blending humor with confidence in a way that suggested effortless success. His television persona highlighted a life defined by luxury, order, and financial competence. He styled himself as a provider who understood how to manage both his household and his business ventures, giving viewers the impression of a man whose achievements were the result of discipline and sharp judgment. Behind the composed facade, Todd's financial reality was far more unstable. Years of debt, disputed records, and efforts to maintain an image of wealth increasingly placed him under scrutiny. The confidence displayed on screen contrasted with private attempts to manage creditors' legal pressure and the unraveling of the financial structure that supported the family's lifestyle. Even as he joked about extravagance and sophistication, the foundation supporting his public identity was eroding. When fraud and tax-related charges became public, the divide between his portrayed image and his real circumstances became unmistakable. Viewers who had believed in his narrative of success faced a version of Todd that contradicted nearly everything the show presented. His downfall illustrated how reality television can amplify an image without revealing the instability beneath it, turning him into a prominent example of a double life collapsing under exposure. 20. Mama June Shannon. Mama June gained recognition on Here Comes Honey Boo Boo as an unconventional but affectionate mother whose humor and spontaneity made her instantly memorable. On screen, she projected a carefree personality, embracing everyday chaos with ease and finding entertainment in the smallest moments. Her image resonated with viewers because it felt unfiltered and grounded, portraying her as a woman who valued family above all else regardless of circumstances. Outside the show, her life carried challenges that contrasted sharply with the light-hearted persona she presented. Long-standing struggles with addiction, unstable relationships, and periods of financial unpredictability shaped her personal world. These difficulties remained largely hidden behind the upbeat tone of the series, where humor and relatability smoothed over signs of deeper issues. As her private battles escalated, the divide between her on-screen warmth and her off-screen instability grew more pronounced. When her personal crises eventually became public, the shift in perception was significant. Fans who had enjoyed her comedic approach were confronted with the weight of her struggles and the impact on her family. Mama June's story reveals how easily reality television can present a simplified version of a complex life, and how quickly that illusion fades when the truth emerges beyond the frame. 19. Farrah Abraham. Farrah Abraham entered Teen Mom as a young mother navigating grief, responsibility, and the pressures of early adulthood. On screen, she often appeared determined and focused on securing a stable future for herself and her daughter. Her storylines portrayed her as ambitious, hardworking, and resilient in the face of emotional challenges. Viewers saw someone striving to overcome difficult circumstances, and her determination became a recurring theme throughout her appearances. Privately, Farrah's life unfolded in ways that differed sharply from the narrative shown on television. Fame intensified existing tensions within her family, and the pressure to maintain relevance led to decisions that complicated her public image. Her involvement in adult entertainment, legal issues, and public disputes with castmates painted a more volatile picture than the hopeful persona the show often emphasized. The emotional strain of raising a child under constant scrutiny added another layer of instability behind the scenes. As her off-screen controversies grew, the contrast between Farrah's public identity and her private behavior became increasingly pronounced. Audiences who once empathized with her journey began to question her motivations and the direction of her choices. Do you think Farrah's downfall was inevitable, or did fame push her into deeper turmoil? Share your thoughts below. Her trajectory remains a prominent example of how reality stardom can shape and sometimes distort a person's path. 18. Kelly Dodd. Kelly Dodd made her mark on The Real Housewives of Orange County with an outspoken personality that blended humor, boldness, and willingness to engage in conflict. On screen, she projected confidence and spontaneity, making her one of the franchise's most unpredictable and entertaining figures. Viewers recognized her as someone unafraid to confront difficult situations, adding dramatic momentum to every season she appeared in. Behind the camera, Kelly's life was complicated by controversies that extended far beyond the interpersonal conflicts featured on the show. Public disagreements on social media, divisive political comments, and strained relationships with castmates contributed to a reputation that was more volatile than her televised persona suggested. The impulsiveness that made her engaging on screen often led to real-world backlash, challenging her ability to separate entertainment from personal identity. As these off-screen issues accumulated, The gap between Kelly's television personality and her private actions grew impossible to ignore. The network's decisions regarding her future and the reactions from fans highlighted how her behavior had shifted public perception. Her story serves as a reminder that reality TV visibility can magnify both the strengths and the weaknesses of its stars, often revealing contradictions that reshape their entire narrative. 17. Ronnie Ortiz Magro. Ronnie Ortiz Magro rose to fame on Jersey Shore as the emotional, fiercely loyal cast member whose relationships and conflicts drove many of the show's most memorable moments. On screen, he appeared passionate, energetic, and deeply connected to his friends, embodying the chaotic intensity that defined the series' early seasons. Audiences saw him as a central figure, navigating love, friendship, and the party lifestyle with heart and vulnerability. Off-screen, Ronnie's struggles were far more serious than the dramatic arguments portrayed on television. Issues with substance abuse, emotional instability, etc., and toxic relationships created a cycle of turmoil that the show only partially revealed. Legal incidents and allegations of domestic violence pointed to deeper challenges he faced privately, difficulties that fame neither addressed nor alleviated. The emotional outbursts shown on television often reflected deeper, unresolved issues taking shape beyond the cameras. When these off-screen problems became public, the image of Ronnie as a troubled but lovable personality shifted dramatically. Networks paused his involvement, fans expressed concern, and conversations moved from entertainment to safety and accountability. His story underscores how reality television can amplify behaviors without showing the deeper causes behind them, resulting in a public persona that masks a much more complicated truth. 16. Bam Margera. Bam Margera became a standout figure on Jackass through his unrestrained energy, inventive stunts, and willingness to embrace physical chaos for entertainment. On screen, he embodied the archetype of the fearless prankster, someone who turned danger into comedy and pushed boundaries with enthusiasm. His unpredictable humor and dynamic presence made him a core part of the show's identity, giving viewers the sense that he thrived in an environment built on recklessness. Away from the controlled unpredictability of the series, Bam's personal life was shaped by challenges that amplified over time. Struggles with addiction, untreated emotional pain, and the pressure to maintain an extreme persona placed increasing strain on his relationships and his well-being. The same impulsiveness that made him compelling on television contributed to instability behind the scenes. His attempts to navigate fame, grief, and expectation often led to destructive choices that contrasted sharply with his televised bravado. When his behavior became erratic and public, the gap between Bam the performer and Bam the individual came into sharp focus. Fans who once admired his resilience began to see the consequences of a lifestyle built on stunts and escalation. His departure from ongoing franchise projects further highlighted his difficulties. Bam's story reveals how a persona centered on chaos can mask profound emotional fractures, turning a beloved TV figure into a symbol of the personal cost of extreme entertainment. 15. Nene Leakes. Nene Leakes emerged on The Real Housewives of Atlanta as a charismatic force whose humor, confidence, and commanding presence shaped the tone of the series. On screen, she portrayed herself as both outspoken and self-assured, delivering memorable lines and driving major storylines with ease. Her blend of boldness and comedic timing established her as one of the most recognizable personalities in the franchise, admired for her ability to dominate any scene. Behind the cameras, Nene faced an evolving set of challenges that gradually strained her relationship with the show. Tensions with production, conflicts with castmates, and disagreements over representation fueled frustrations that rarely appeared in full on-screen. Her public statements and eventual legal actions suggested deeper dissatisfaction and emotional fatigue, contrasting with the confident figure audiences had come to expect. Her off-screen disputes revealed a complexity not always visible through edited episodes. As these issues intensified, her departure from the franchise shifted public perception. Fans debated whether she had outgrown the show or been pushed aside by circumstances beyond her control. The divide between Nena's influential on-screen role and her contentious real-life exit highlighted how fame can evolve into conflict. Her journey stands as a reminder that even the most dominant television personas can struggle beneath the burden of maintaining their image. 14. Kris Jenner. Kris Jenner became the strategic heart of keeping up with the Kardashians, cultivating an image of a meticulous planner and devoted mother guiding a complex family brand. On screen, she appeared composed and capable adept at resolving crises while managing the careers of her children with precision. Her persona suggested a leader who thrived under constant pressure, seamlessly balancing business, family, and the relentless pace of public attention. Away from the curated family dynamic presented on television, Kris managed a network of challenges rarely shown in full. Decades of family complexities, business decisions that drew scrutiny and evolving dynamics within her household created a private landscape far more intricate than the polished one portrayed on screen. Critics questioned her methods, hinting at a more calculated and demanding style of leadership that clashed with the nurturing image she often projected. As public interest in the family deepened, discussions about Kris's influence and decision-making became more prominent. The tension between her roles as a mother and a manager generated speculation about how much of what viewers saw was genuine and how much was orchestrated. Her story illustrates the blurred boundaries between performance and reality in a family that built an empire on both, revealing a double life shaped by control, perception, and the need to maintain a legacy. 13. Scott Disick. Scott Disick entered Keeping Up with the Kardashians as the polished, humorous partner of Kourtney Kardashian, quickly establishing himself as a central presence in the family narrative. On screen, he appeared witty, upbeat, and capable of bringing levity to even the tensest situations. His charm and self-awareness helped shape him into a fan favorite, a man who balanced luxury with a light-hearted approach to the pressures of fame. He portrayed the image of someone who enjoyed indulgence but remained emotionally grounded. In reality, Scott was grappling with persistent struggles that overshadowed the confident persona he displayed. Substance misuse, unresolved grief following the loss of his parents, and the weight of living his personal life under constant surveillance contributed to a cycle of instability. His attempts to maintain composure on camera often clashed with private difficulties that grew more challenging over time. The glamorous lifestyle presented to viewers concealed a pattern of emotional strain and recurring setbacks. As his struggles became more visible, the contrast between Scott's on-screen persona and his private turmoil deepened. His repeated efforts at recovery and the public unraveling of his relationship with Kourtney highlighted how vulnerable he was beneath the polished exterior. Scott's journey underscores the complexities of portraying lightness when living through heaviness, and how reality fame can intensify internal challenges that seldom reach the surface. 12. Tila Tequila. Tila Tequila's rise through A Shot at Love drew attention for its bold premise and her charismatic, flirtatious presence. On screen, she embraced spontaneity, confidence, and a playful approach to the show's competitive structure. Her persona blended vulnerability with daring, creating a sense of unpredictability that kept viewers invested. She appeared to navigate her relationships and emotions, openly presenting herself as someone who thrived in the spotlight. Away from television, Tila's life grew increasingly unstable. Mental health struggles, public controversies, and erratic online behavior reshaped her public identity in ways far removed from the vibrant character she portrayed on screen. Her once celebrated spontaneity evolved into unpredictability that alarmed both fans and networks. The sense of control she seemed to display during her rise faded as her personal challenges became more visible and more serious. As her public behavior continued to escalate, the discrepancy between her early image and her later actions became undeniable. What once appeared bold began to look like distress, and the shift in perception altered the narrative of her entire career. Tyla's trajectory illustrates how a reality persona can mask profound instability and how quickly that mask can dissolve when real life overwhelms performance. 11. Ryan Edwards. Ryan Edwards entered Teen Mom portraying the easygoing young father whose calm demeanor and southern charm made him an appealing figure in the series' early seasons. On screen, he appeared composed and approachable, often serving as a relaxed counterbalance to emotionally intense moments. His presence suggested maturity and a desire to contribute positively to his child's life, creating an impression of someone capable of steady growth. Privately, Ryan was navigating battles that contrasted sharply with his laid-back image. Escalating addiction issues, repeated attempts at rehabilitation, and strained personal relationships contributed to a turbulent reality the show only partially reflected. His challenges deepened over time, leading to legal complications and emotional conflicts that undermined the stability he projected on camera. The pressures of fame compounded these struggles, making recovery more difficult and setbacks more visible. When his issues became public knowledge, the distinction between his on-screen persona and his off-screen behavior became unavoidable. Viewers who once saw potential for maturity witnessed a series of crises that reshaped his narrative entirely. Ryan's story reveals how a seemingly calm presence can conceal profound instability, and how reality television can only capture fragments of a larger, more troubling truth. 10. Richard Hatch. Richard Hatch became a defining figure of early reality television through Survivor, where he projected intelligence, strategic insight, and a calm confidence that set him apart from the competition. On screen, he appeared composed and analytical, someone who approached the game with precision rather than impulse. His unexpected and historic win reinforced the narrative of a contestant who outplayed everyone by relying on logic and social maneuvering rather than theatrics or conflict. He presented the image of a decisive competitor who understood the mechanics of the game better than anyone. Away from the island, Richard's real life revealed complications that differed sharply from the controlled strategist viewers admired. Financial mismanagement, legal disputes, and a long-running conflict with tax authorities gradually overshadowed his reputation. The discipline and calculation he displayed on television contrasted with private decisions that led to mounting legal trouble. What appeared to be confidence in public often masked an inability to navigate the responsibilities that accompanied sudden fame. When his legal issues culminated in conviction, the divide between the reality champion and the troubled individual became impossible to ignore. Fans who once saw him as a symbol of strategy and intelligence reconsidered how much of that persona was limited to the game. Do you believe his downfall was rooted in poor decisions or in the pressures of becoming one of reality TV's first global figures? Share your view. 9. Mike the Situation Sorrentino. Mike the Situation Sorrentino rose to fame on Jersey Shore as the charismatic center of the group, quick with jokes, unapologetically confident, and deeply committed to the lifestyle that defined the series. On screen, he embodied high energy and humor, often setting the tone for the show's wildest moments. His outward persona suggested resilience, self-assurance, and an ability to navigate chaos with ease, making him one of the franchise's most recognizable personalities. Privately, Mike's life was shaped by pressure and insecurity the cameras rarely captured. Substance dependency, unresolved emotional turmoil, and financial problems contributed to a downward spiral hidden beneath his humor. The bravado that defined his television presence became a shield for vulnerabilities that grew increasingly difficult to manage. As stress mounted, the public performance of confidence clashed with a personal reality marked by fear, confusion, and instability. When his legal issues surfaced and federal sentencing followed, fans were confronted with the fragility behind his once solid exterior. The shift from comedic star to someone visibly struggling forced audiences to reconsider the complexities beneath the character. Looking at his rise and fall, do you think Mike was overwhelmed by fame or undone by choices he made himself? Leave your thoughts below. 8. Kendra Wilkinson. Kendra Wilkinson first gained recognition on The Girls Next Door, where she appeared cheerful, spontaneous, and eager to embrace an extraordinary lifestyle. On screen, she radiated lightness and optimism, shaping a persona built on humor and a carefree approach to fame. Her transition into later reality projects maintained that image, a woman navigating adulthood with openness, relatability, and a willingness to share the challenges of family life. Behind that upbeat exterior, Kendra was dealing with emotional strain that seldom appeared on camera. Her past experiences, complicated relationships, and growing responsibilities as a parent contributed to a sense of instability she struggled to reconcile with her public identity. As pressure increased, moments of vulnerability surfaced through her personal life, leading to mental health challenges and a sense of being overwhelmed by the expectations placed on her. When her marriage deteriorated and her private struggles became public, the contrast between her public persona and her internal battles deepened. Viewers who once associated her with effortless joy saw someone navigating profound uncertainty. Kendra's story highlights how carefully constructed optimism can mask deeper emotional fractures, and how reality fame often blurs the line between sharing a life and shielding it. 7. Jon Gosselin. Jon Gosselin became a familiar face through Jon and Kate +8, where he appeared as the patient, slightly overwhelmed father of a uniquely large family. On screen, he projected steadiness, a man navigating everyday responsibilities while trying to maintain harmony in a household constantly under pressure. His calm demeanor and reserved personality contrasted with the show's frequent moments of tension, creating the image of a grounded presence holding a demanding family structure together. Behind the scenes, Jon's reality was increasingly defined by emotional exhaustion and a growing sense of confinement. Fame magnified conflicts within his marriage, and private disagreements escalated under the strain of public attention. The show's portrayal often simplified his situation, leaving out the complexities of a relationship tested by cameras, production demands, and the loss of privacy. His attempts to reclaim independence after leaving the show were overshadowed by public scrutiny and legal battles that shaped a more turbulent narrative than viewers expected. As personal and professional challenges intensified, Jon's public image shifted dramatically. The once steady figure was recast by headlines focused on conflict and instability. His story illustrates how reality television can amplify pressure until it fundamentally reshapes a life, turning a seemingly relatable father into a figure defined by the struggle to regain control of his identity. 6. Amber Portwood. Amber Portwood entered Teen Mom as a young woman attempting to rebuild her life after a difficult adolescence. On screen, she conveyed vulnerability and a desire to evolve, offering moments of honesty that resonated with viewers following her personal development. Her storyline centered on the hardships of parenting under public scrutiny, and she appeared committed to rising above her circumstances while acknowledging her past mistakes. This combination of transparency and ambition defined her early reality persona. Privately, Amber faced emotional and psychological challenges that limited her ability to maintain the stability portrayed on the show. Issues involving mental health, addiction, and volatile relationships created a fragile environment that the cameras only partially revealed. The tension between her efforts toward self-improvement and the recurring obstacles in her personal life deepened over time. What appeared as growth on screen often clashed with deeper unresolved struggles that continued to influence her decisions. When public incidents involving domestic violence emerged, the divide between Amber's portrayed journey and her real-life difficulties became unavoidable. Fans who once sympathized with her adversity reconsidered the narrative they had followed. Her story demonstrates how reality television can highlight progress while concealing instability, and how challenging it is to reconcile a redemption arc with the weight of ongoing personal battles. 5. Lamar Odom. Lamar Odom's appearances on Chloe and Lamar presented him as a warm, humorous, and deeply affectionate partner whose success in professional basketball contrasted with his down-to-earth personality. On screen, he seemed grounded and emotionally open, offering glimpses of vulnerability that humanized him beyond his athletic achievements. His relationship with Chloe was framed as one of genuine connection, making him an unexpectedly relatable figure in a world often dominated by image and performance. Away from the controlled environment of the show, Lamar struggled with long-standing emotional wounds, substance dependency, and the heavy expectations tied to his career. These issues intensified over time, creating a world that was far more unstable than the supportive partnership depicted on television. The pressure to maintain a hopeful public narrative clashed with private battles that increasingly threatened his health and relationships. His emotional openness on screen masked a deeper turmoil that he struggled to manage. When he suffered a near-fatal overdose, the stark contrast between his public persona and his private pain became undeniable. Viewers were forced to confront the complexity of a man whose televised warmth had concealed significant distress. Lamar's story remains one of the clearest examples of how reality fame can obscure personal struggles until they break into full public view. 4. Nicole Snooki Polizzi. Nicole Snooki Polizzi became the breakout star of Jersey Shore, known for her energetic personality, humorous reactions, and uninhibited approach to nightlife. On screen, she appeared carefree and boldly expressive, embracing the party-driven environment with confidence. Her charm lay in her unpredictability, a persona built on spontaneity, exaggerated humor, and moments of emotional honesty that endeared her to viewers. Snooki quickly became a cultural figure representing youthful chaos and lighthearted rebellion. Off-camera, her reality was far more complicated than the show suggested. The pressures of overnight fame, struggles with alcohol, and the impact of constant public attention created a level of stress rarely depicted in the series. While her persona thrived on exaggerated behavior, she privately confronted insecurity and exhaustion tied to her lifestyle. The brand that grew around her identity intensified expectations she found increasingly difficult to meet, especially as she transitioned into adulthood and motherhood. As she sought stability, distancing herself from her earlier lifestyle, the contrast between her on-screen reputation and her off-screen development became clear. Fans who associated her with carefree excess witnessed a shift toward responsibility that revealed how unsustainable her earlier persona had been. Snooki's story illustrates how a public identity built on entertainment can overshadow personal growth, and how challenging it can be to redefine oneself after becoming a symbol of a specific era in reality television. 3. Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton entered the simple life as the embodiment of luxury and carefree privilege, presenting a persona rooted in innocence, comedic detachment, and glamorous aloofness. On screen, she portrayed a character who seemed unfamiliar with ordinary responsibilities, leaning into a playful naivety that made her episodes compelling. Her calm, deliberate reactions created the impression of someone who floated through life with ease, becoming a defining face of early reality television. Privately, Paris carried experiences that differed drastically from the persona she performed. Before her rise to fame, she endured traumatic treatment in youth behavioral facilities, a past she concealed behind a cultivated image of light-hearted simplicity. The ditzy heiress identity became a protective barrier, allowing her to control the narrative surrounding her public life, while leaving her deeper experiences unexamined. Fame amplified this separation, pressuring her to maintain a character that distorted her authentic self. When Paris later revealed the realities of her past, the contrast between her public image and her private experiences reframed her career. Viewers who once interpreted her persona as superficial began recognizing the complexity behind it. Her story remains one of the clearest examples of how a reality star can construct a second identity to survive public attention, and how difficult it is to reconcile that image with long-hidden truth. 2. Rob Kardashian. Rob Kardashian appeared on Keeping Up with the Kardashians as the calm, good-natured younger brother who often brought levity to family tensions. On screen, he projected a relaxed demeanor and contributed moments of humor that balanced the show's more dramatic elements. His interactions suggested a person comfortable with stepping back from the spotlight, choosing a supportive role while maintaining close ties with his family. The image conveyed stability, humility, and a desire for a simpler life amid fame. Away from the cameras, Rob faced emotional and psychological challenges that gradually pushed him into isolation. Struggles with depression, weight fluctuations, and anxiety made it increasingly difficult for him to participate in the family's growing media empire. Tensions in his personal relationships and pressures tied to public scrutiny intensified his withdrawal. The cheerful, easygoing persona he displayed early in the series concealed internal battles that grew heavier as the show progressed. As Rob retreated from public life, the gap between his on-screen identity and his private reality became unmistakable. Fans who remembered his early presence witnessed a trajectory defined by distance and hardship rather than comedic relief. His story underscores the emotional cost of being part of a high-profile family, revealing how fame can amplify vulnerabilities rather than shield against them. 1. Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian emerged on Keeping Up with the Kardashians as the poised centerpiece of a growing media empire, cultivating an image that blended composure, empathy, and strategic clarity. On screen, she appeared organized and unshaken, navigating personal and family challenges with a calm confidence that distinguished her from surrounding chaos. Her persona suggested discipline, emotional intelligence, and a rare ability to maintain control amid exposure and scrutiny. She presented herself as someone who balanced fame with responsibility through deliberate choices and steady self-presentation. Behind the scenes, Kim's life was shaped by pressures far more intense than the show often revealed. The constant management of public perception, complex business decisions, and unresolved personal struggles created an environment defined by scrutiny and high stakes. Every crisis required careful coordination, legal strategy, and calculated communication that contrasted with the effortless composure shown on television. The emotional weight of maintaining an immaculate image while balancing family demands, legal involvement, and private challenges was rarely acknowledged in the narrative crafted for viewers. As her influence expanded, the contrast between Kim's polished exterior and the intricate machinery supporting it became increasingly apparent. Audiences began to question where authenticity ended and branding began. Her journey demonstrates how reality stardom can turn transparency into performance, and how a persona built on openness can still conceal layers of stress, sacrifice, and strategic control. Kim remains one of the most prominent examples of a reality figure whose public identity and private reality operate on entirely different levels. Reality television markets itself as an open window into real lives. But the stories behind these familiar faces often reveal far more complexity than any episode ever shows. Throughout this list, we've seen how several stars maintained polished, confident personas while confronting private struggles that rarely reached the screen. Some hid legal trouble, others concealed emotional instability, and a few built entire public identities that operated separately from the reality unfolding behind closed doors. These 25 examples make one thing clear. The version of truth presented to millions is almost always incomplete. When the cameras stop, the pressure to maintain an image becomes heavier, the narrative becomes harder to control, and the gap between public perception and private life grows increasingly difficult to bridge. So after hearing all 25 stories, which celebrities' double life shocked you the most, and why do you think their truth stayed hidden for so long? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If you want to uncover more stories buried behind the spotlight, stay with this channel. The next list might reveal a name you never expected.